Hey, this is Betsy.
And this is Gina, and this is the Lost and Found podcast.
Our podcast is really a labor of love, and it came about a couple years ago when we recognized that we have some incredibly interesting, passionate entrepreneurs. We're making this for you guys. If you're listening, we've made this for you because it's created for our alumni community. These are small business owners and entrepreneurs. We're in the trenches together, but the stories that we can share, I think, will help you feel less alone, get you inspired, maybe even inspire you to connect with these people.
Real stories from real entrepreneurs in small communities. Welcome back to the Lost and Found podcast with the Marketing Unacademy. Today we have a very special guest. Today we have Emma Weber, owner of Gnometown Grounds in Dawson, Minnesota. We're super excited to have Emma on today. She went through Startup Boot Camp in November, and she had only been open for a few short weeks. Since that time, you have gone on quite the adventure, and we're going to hear all about it today. But especially interested in hearing about this journey that, Emma's a young entrepreneur in a very small town doing really big things. So we're excited to kind of dig into that whole side of your story and just learn about how you got to this place, what it's like for you, what are some of the challenges, maybe what some advice you have for other people. But it's really great to have you back here in our building and to have you on this podcast. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Miss Emma, here we are. You own a coffee shop in a small town. How did you get to this place? Like, what led you? Are you from Dawson? You're back in Dawson. Let's hear a little bit of your origin story.
Yeah, so I grew up in Dawson, which is a town of 1,500 people. And when I was really, really little, my parents owned the bakery there for a couple of years. So I don't know if that's what put this in me or always baking with my mom, but I've always kind of wanted to own a bakery, coffee shop situation. And so I never guessed it would be Dawson, but I went to college and studied hospitality and tourism management to prepare myself and learned a lot about all the businessy things. And then I went and did YWAM for a few years, and then I came home, and maybe 3 days after I landed, the guy I bought the business from asked me if I'd be interested.
Welcome home.
Yes.
You just went on this adventure of a lifetime, traveled across the globe, worked with missions in Australia. You landed, got off the plane, and someone said, how do you feel about owning my business, Emma? Welcome back.
Yeah. And I was like, is there a timeline? Obviously you're not ready to sell today. And he was like, well, sometime soon. And I was like, okay. And kind of put it towards the back of my mind.
Sure.
Being a missionary, you don't really have money. So I was like, I can't financially do this anyway. I have nothing to put into it. And so I think it was 2-ish years that we went back and forth, and I worked random jobs around town and finally just decided that it was now or never. So why not?
And when did you decide it was now or never?
I think it was only in August of last year.
Okay.
I'd been pursuing it and researching and doing all the numbers and talking to loan officers and things like that. And I just was like, you have 5 days and you need to decide yes or no. So.
And you decided yes.
I did.
Yes, you did. Okay, I got to unpack that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So your parents owned the bakery in Dawson. Did you help out at the bakery?
I don't remember helping out at the bakery.
Okay.
I was 5.
Okay.
My little siblings did because, why not take your kids to work when you own your own business instead of daycare? But I was in school at the time, so I spent most of my time at school, or we had a family that worked at the bakery and watched us, so it just rotated who was where, and yeah.
And your family stayed in Dawson,
Mm-hmm.
so I assume they sold the bakery.
Mm-hmm.
You went to school. Your family stayed in Dawson. You went to school in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
You studied hospitality and tourism. That sounds fun.
It was probably the best major you can choose. We had like a wine tasting class, a restaurant class where you planned a restaurant and then ran a restaurant, and the rest of the groups in the class were like different stations inside your restaurant. So you got to see how every element worked and how they worked together. We took a casino class. We did one about amusement parks, and we had to like design our own amusement park for our final project. Yeah, it was pretty.
Well, I would say you're putting that to good use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're doing now, you are. You have a restaurant, a coffee shop. Okay, so after college, you decided to go to Australia with YWAM. And how long were you there?
I was with them for 3.5 years with a year in between.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, so was it always Australia?
I was based in Australia and then was sent out from there both times, yeah.
So for 3.5 years, you were in Australia. And what, I mean, it's hard to sum up an experience like that, I understand. But what did you take away from your time with YWAM? Or what really impacted you?
How simple it is for everything to be missions if that's the lifestyle you live, but also how to be more intentional in creating those opportunities. For part of that time I was managing, we had a cafe that was open to the public and also open to our base, and so it was how do we be a welcoming space for people that have no idea why there's 118 to 25-year-olds in this building at the same time, and how do we tell them what we're doing in a way that actually transforms people and not just shuts them off.
How do you, because, okay, when you're saying that, I know I'm going to ask you the impossible question, and you're like, I can't answer that. But when you're saying that, I mean, isn't that really when you own a business too, like how you tell people about your business? It can be completely impactful, just one or two sentences that you explain it in. And so, like, how did you learn to tell people about what you were doing without, like, by being welcoming and, like you said, transformative?
Pass it off to someone else?
Yeah, right.
No. We had a bunch of like sayings that we used, and like the way that we had our cafe set up, there was a bright blue door that was easy to talk about in that way, because it was like, why is there randomly a blue door in this black and white cafe and that door leads to nowhere? And so it was kind of the collective project that we had called it. It was called the Blue Door Project, and we're trying to open doors of community and faith in this area, and we'd love to get to know you. And some people are like, wow, that's awesome, and some people are like, that's weird. And
okay,
like, yeah, okay, see you later.
Well, sure. So you worked in a coffee shop on the base. Oh, and what did you love about the coffee shop experience there that you chose to later still do it? Like, what was great about that?
I love how you get to talk to so many people in your day about so many random things, your business, things going on in the community, their lives. But also, I love how, like, every day is different. Like, you never know what's going to happen when you flip that open sign and start pouring shots. It's just, you just have to face it and get through it. And sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's not, but you're not going to do the same thing tomorrow, so it doesn't really matter.
That is a really good point. I think that, like, summed up, like, small business ownership in general. Like, it's never really the same. There's an outline.
Right.
There's a good structure to it, but you just don't know what's going to be thrown at you.
No.
But you like that. You thrive on that, which is, I mean, that's perfect. So after 3.5 years, you come back to Dawson. You land, and you probably have a lot of different ideas or plans in your head of what's going to be next. But you stuck around in Dawson. One is the potential of owning a coffee shop. And you said you did odd jobs to kind of help you prepare for that.
Yeah, I worked at the school a lot, so
okay,
it didn't really help prepare for the small business side, but it helped prepare for the financial side of getting things back on track, I guess.
All right, so you came back. You decided that you're going to stay in Dawson. You're looking at purchasing the coffee shop. You purchased it, and you renamed it to Gnometown Grounds. What an interesting name.
Yes. Well, I originally wanted to call it a different name, but that has like historical value in our town. And then I went to like put it in the little LLC name finder, and it was taken in the state of Minnesota.
Oh.
So then I had to spiral and figure out something else cool. And our town is self-proclaimed the Gnometown capital of the USA. So we honor a gnome every year and just really like gnomes, I guess.
Okay, the gnome capital of the USA.
Mm-hmm.
Why gnomes?
I think it has to do with like our Swedish Norwegian heritage, because in their culture it's a folklore item that brings like good luck, and so they're not evil. Some people think they're evil. Those are trolls. Very fine line. But yeah, they're just supposed to be a sign of good luck and kindness. So we just took them, and for the last 40 years we've been honoring someone in our community as a gnome, and we make a statue of them, and it resides in a park.
Wait, someone gets a statue made?
Like a gnome statue, yeah. They're like 3 feet tall.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
In like a gnome attire?
Mm-hmm. With a gnome hat.
Emma, you could be a gnome someday.
I could.
Okay, so there's something special about the hat as well.
Mm-hmm. When they created the gnomes, they created a story for people not to be afraid of them. And part of that story is that you'll know it's a Dawson gnome by their heart on their sleeve and their crook in their hat. And I don't know what the crook in the hat actually means. I just know that it's in the story.
So there's like a gnome festival every year. I'm guessing there's a parade.
Parade, softball tournament, random things happening, basketball tournament. There's a 5K this year. We have some high schoolers in a band, so they're gonna do a youth dance, I guess.
Oh, fun.
There's like a street dance, a fireman's dance.
What's the festival called?
It's called Riverfest.
What?
Yeah.
It's not Gnometown Fest?
No. I don't know.
Okay, Riverfest, but there's a lot of gnomes there.
Yes.
And somebody is crowned, sculpted Gnome of the Year for their good work that they've done.
Yes.
And is that the heart on the sleeve thing?
I believe so. Like their heart on their sleeve is they're gonna show up and be kind and support what they can and bring what they have to the table as well. So
I love it. I think that's so cool. So a very appropriate name for the coffee shop, Gnometown Grounds. I think it's a great name.
Thank you.
Yeah, and your logo is adorable. It's a black and white gnome.
If only people called it Gnometown Grounds.
Okay, so what are people calling it?
Everyone calls it Emma's Place, which is ironic simply because I didn't want my name attached to it at all.
Isn't it funny how those things just happen, though?
Yeah.
But it's still new. It might become Gnometown Grounds yet. Hang on to it.
Yeah.
It's
And
going
I
to
tell
get there.
them they can call whatever they want to each other. Just call it Gnometown Grounds in my presence.
There you go. Like this was it's a lot of work naming a business.
It
Like
is.
it is a very serious thing. We have another business that's kind of going through a revamp, a rename, and she has a story and she talks about how it's like naming your child. Like you're like, it's super thoughtful. It's going to be around for years to come. You live in it. You live with it. Like this is going to be a good name. So yeah,
You have to teach people how to spell it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to be a thing.
Sure. Well, you never know what's going to come up.
No.
It's a good name. Gnometown Grounds is a good name. So when you went through boot camp, you were kind of just settling on the name, I think, right? Or no, when you signed up for boot camp, you were settling on the name. But once you came, it was official. And at boot camp, we always try to work with our why. So the why is kind of the thing that fuels you, that drives you, that sets you apart. And it's what's behind all the things that you're doing. So do you remember had a couple variations or worked on it a little bit? I don't know that we really settled on a why, but do you remember kind of where you were at with yours?
It was somewhere like everyone deserves a spot at the table, or everyone has a spot at the table, or something they bring to the table.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like everybody deserves to be seen.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves to have a place at the table. When we worked on your business why, okay, well, let's go back to this. Everybody deserves to be seen. Everybody deserves to have a place at the table. Why does that mean something to you?
I think it just goes back to like why I did missions, why I even have a faith. Is it like it gives you have to have value before you start to do anything, and believe in yourself and step out in those things. And I think there's a lot of things in this world that try to take that away from us, but each person is important and unique and has something to share, and it might not be the same as what everyone else has, and that's what makes it beautiful. So how do we make space for all of that in our world, I guess?
Very well said. And I totally agree with you. My why is also like when people feel valued, they build. They build community, they build things. And yeah, it's like what you just said. We're all created for a reason. Everybody's here to bring something to the table, but sometimes you may not feel like you can or that you should. Everybody has a place at the table. Everybody has something to bring. Everybody deserves to be seen. I love that. How do you communicate that with your business?
One way I think I do this is by not necessarily, I want to say community input, but I feel like everyone takes in community input. But one of our things that we really believe in is trying to find local makers for the gift part of our store. And so by supporting them and giving them somewhere to sell and get their name out there, it's like, okay, yes, what you are doing has value to our community. How can we grow that for you or help you grow?
Tell us a little bit about that. So you're not just a coffee shop. You have a few different aspects in your business.
Yes.
What do you all have inside of your business?
We also have like a gift store. So we have like gourmet foods, handmade items, decorations, decor things, which is really hard to find made locally and in the U.S. So stay tuned if that sticks around. Yeah. And then we try to have like big table spaces for people to meet and gather. And then hopefully soon we'll be also doing like food, soups and sandwiches and baked goods.
Well, you say that. So a few pieces to that. So how many vendors are in your retail space?
A lot.
Like 5 to 10, 10 to 20?
Say somewhere between 15 and 30.
Oh, wow. Yeah, quite a few. And so they're kind of in charge of what they're selling in your space. They come in, they rotate it.
Vendors that way, there's probably like 5 to 10.
Okay.
There's also a website where you can source like bigger local places. So like within the state of Minnesota, Wisconsin,
Yes.
Iowa, South Dakota. So I'd say a majority of it is that, and it's bought at wholesale, and then we just sell it, and then maybe 5 to 10 people are making things and bringing them in.
Awesome. So the things that you're selling, they are locally made and curated Minnesota around the area. I love that. I bet it offers a lot of personality inside of your shop too. That's awesome. Okay, so then we maybe didn't explain this very well, but you bought this business. You were in operation throughout the holiday season, selling coffee, doing food at that time?
No, just baked goods, and then gifts and retail as well.
And gifts. And then in January, you closed down shop and you remodeled your whole space.
And I'd love to say that it's done, but it's not.
So why did you want to remodel it? Why?
Firstly, it needed it. The carpet and all that had been in there for 30 plus years. And so it was like, okay, the front half needs a facelift and needs to become ours. So that was fast and easy. And then I also wanted to expand the amount of coffee we were able to do, as well as be able to offer food and sandwiches. And then the baked goods right now, the health inspector's letting me sell them under a cottage food license, which means I bake everything at home and bring it in. And now in the future, we'll be able to bake right in the store and just sell it. And there will be way less plastic waste as well, which is great. And just the scheduling of not having to bake at night.
Absolutely. So you're putting in like not a commercial kitchen, but kind of like a...
Close to a commercial kitchen, like a very small scale commercial kitchen.
So when do you have hopes that that'll be opened up?
I'm praying it will be June 1st.
Okay.
We're currently battling a lot of behind the scenes things to get some stuff done.
So in the process of this remodel, you wanted to make the location feel like it's your own, because it used to be a coffee shop. Like we said, you bought it from a former owner. Mm-hmm. And so now you're kind of giving it your personality, your flair. Mm-hmm. Do you love being in it?
Yes.
Does it feel like yours?
Yes. And sometimes I have to like pinch myself because I have like a big sticker on the window and you like look up and you see Gnometown Grounds and you're like, wait a second. I own this. This is mine.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool feeling.
That's really cool. Have you seen, I'm picturing you opening up the door every day and walking in and that feeling that you're getting most days. And what is that feeling?
Most days it's like joy and like it feels weird to say that I'm proud of myself, but that's what it feels like. It's like, wow, we did this. We made this happen. And right now it's not usually that. It's like, oh, no one magically came and made this kitchen a kitchen.
Right, but the feeling that you should feel proud of yourself. It's a huge endeavor. And again, you haven't even been open a year yet. I mean, you are still going through the highs and lows and the learning process. And I mean, it takes years to kind of figure out the actual business part of it and, you know, your costs and your margins and your customers and what you can do and what you can't do. I mean, it takes a lot of time. And you're going for it. You should feel very proud of yourself. And it's the only way to learn, right? And you're learning a lot. What's the remodeling process? What has it been like? Stressful?
Yes. Eye-opening.
Eye-opening, yeah.
I was just like, oh, it will just be easy. I was very delusional in January, and then we realized how old my building was and all the random quirks and things, and I never thought I would celebrate the fact that my building is still indeed square. It's not level, but it's square, so that makes construction very easy.
Yes! There you go.
Yeah, and just learning how to communicate with contractors who aren't always great at communicating and reminding yourself that you are actually in charge. Even though you told them the plan and hired them to do the plan, you still have to make sure they're doing the plan. But most of it's been my family, so it's been kind of a fun bonding experience for all of us, too.
I bet they're really proud of you as well. It's pretty cool. So when we were talking about, you know, this whole process that you're going through, your why, which is beautiful, and we try to set up a business why or like a business mission too. Did we settle on a community thrives when we rely on each other or we wear our heart on our sleeve? Do you remember?
I think it was more when community relies on each other. And it was kind of about, like, we can't do this all on our own. We need help, like, in a production standpoint. Like, our school does these really big musicals every year, and everyone's like, wow, that's so awesome. How do you do it? And we're like, well, Mr. Hurley has the ideas, and then he finds 2 or 3 people to be the head of teams, and then we find whoever we can find to help do it, and we all have to bring what we can to the table. So sometimes in that aspect it's like grandmothers are sewing for me, or retired carpenters are building random things for us, and without all those people it would never work. And the same is with every aspect of our community, is without what everyone has to share we can't build anything.
So thinking about that why and thinking about Gnometown Grounds, so you have your product, your merchandise, it's local, you're supporting local vendors, you're supporting local creators, you're curating this kind of Minnesota, made in Minnesota area. Will your food reflect that at all, do you think? Are you going to have like a vibe or a theme to your food?
I don't think so. I've thought about it and I'm trying to figure it out, but I feel like that's maybe in a couple years. Right now it's like, okay, what will sell and what will people want to eat and how do we get to that point?
Yeah.
Because I would love to be at that point, but then there's a lot of other steps in that ladder then.
You will definitely figure it out. I have no doubt. That's cool. All right. So how does the relying on each other, the gnome heart on your sleeve thing, how does it reflect or relate, like, in your community? You kind of talked about the musical. We talked about this person being sculpted into the gnome of the year. Like, how do you see that living in Dawson?
I think everything that goes on, it has so much community support, and our community is really good at rallying for each other and supporting each other, whether it's baseball or football or dance or basketball or arts or businesses. Like, the amount of people that I never expected to see in my store are like, oh, we're just so excited that you're doing this and we're so proud of you. And I'm like, I don't even know your name, so thank you.
Yeah, because that's what community is, right? And that is, while there's downfalls of being in a small town, especially at a young age where you might feel isolated, there is so much good that comes out of the small town. And that whole support and the relying on each other and boosting each other up, that's pretty cool. People want you to be there, and they want you to be successful. And hopefully you're feeling that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes. It's getting to, like, the point, because this remodel's taking so long, and everyone's like, oh, is she ever going to be open? What's the holdup? What's going on? And I'm like, I'm kind of in an annoying part of community where it's like, I have to tell you, and you might do something with that information. Please don't. Like, I've had people ask for my plumber's number, ask for the state's number.
Oh, because they want to get the ball rolling.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
It's so sweet. It really comes out of a great place.
They are your advocates.
Yes. There's been a lot of times where I'm like, I don't even want to go into public because I know what's going to happen. And I'm just head down.
Because they're all going to be asking you questions, or okay.
And why isn't it happening? And what's going on? And
what do you need, Emma?
Yeah. I'm like, I need the state to be nice to me, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm so sorry.
But we're going to get there.
Yes.
Hang on.
Yes.
You're on your way. You said June 1st, and that's going to come up very quickly.
Yeah.
And time goes fast. It's slow and fast.
Yes.
Kind of both. What about, have you had any community reaction to, like what, you grew up in this small town and now you're a business owner, so like anything that either shock of seeing little Emma owning a business, or have you had to deal with anything like, well, you're just a kid, you don't know what you're doing, or, I mean, I had imagined that would happen.
It's actually been quite the opposite.
Cool.
Which is awesome. Like, everyone's so excited that I'm doing it, that this place is staying open, that there's gonna be a spot to have coffee. Like, they're thrilled that someone wants to invest in their community at such a young age, and I think it gives them a lot of hope. And yeah, I haven't had anyone be like, oh, you're just a kid. They're like, oh, fresh blood. What ideas do you have for our town? What ideas do you have for this? And I'm like, I have the ideas of keeping my business open right now. Thank you.
Okay, but we talked about this a little bit before we started. I mean, as a new business owner, as a young person, I mean, we find out when people go through our programs, like, you're not just a small business owner. Like, our entrepreneurs they are active in their community, and they are creating change, and they are the boundary pushers and the rebels. And it's not just that you own this business. Like, Emma, you don't just own a coffee shop. You are investing in this community. So what, do you have a vision for your community? How are you getting involved? What kind of hopes do you have for Dawson? Like, what has that journey been like?
I didn't expect that part of the journey, so it's been kind of like, oh, okay, yes. It's challenging because I think young people bring different ideas, and I think that's what they're thinking, but then you, like, suggest something that's never been done before, and it gets a little constructive criticism from people, and they're like, oh, people will never do that. They'll never do that. I'm like, how do we know if we don't try?
Right.
Like,
is this like a chamber group, or is it like a...
This is like both. I guess
Okay.
Riverfest, chamber group. That's mainly what I'm involved in right now.
Okay.
And the whole Riverfest thing is like, we love Riverfest, but it's mainly just a big softball tournament with a gnome unveiling. And how do we make it not those things?
You want to dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
A little bit more excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
more family-friendly activities,
Yeah.
per se. So that's been interesting and challenging, and there's a couple of us young people that are like, well, maybe we should try something new. And a few times people have been like, that will never work. And we're like, well, we're going to try.
You don't know until you try.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes the new idea, try it out. Next year, people have a little bit more comfort around it.
Mm-hmm.
Huge success. Who knows?
We'll see. Huge failure either way.
Yeah,
tried.
I don't think so.
We had fun.
Yeah. Okay, so then just remember to have fun doing it.
Yes.
So where do you see, what's your vision for Gnometown Grounds and what's your vision for Dawson? I don't know that they go together. Where do you hope that Dawson will go in 5 years? Where do you hope that your restaurant, coffee shop, retail space, where do you see it going?
I would love for Gnometown Grounds to be able to just be a coffee shop and not have to sell gifts and that kind of thing. That was not the dream. That was an added dream by loan officers. So it is part of the business plan. But at what point can we phase out more into what we want to be? That would be one of our goals. And then a long-term goal would be to be able to grow coffee somewhere or work in a cooperative that grows coffee in Africa. Somehow, someday. I don't know how that will happen, but it's always been a dream of mine, so it's on the list.
So you love coffee.
Mm-hmm. I love the doors that coffee can open, whether it be a job or community or relationships. Coffee seems to be a pretty pivotal point in those items.
So growing your own coffee, so being part of a cooperative or having a coffee farm in Africa and growing coffee, selling it to roasters and shops and different things. Why does that part interest you?
I don't really know, besides the fact that it provides jobs, and it's always been something that I've held close to my heart, is that I know that I have privilege. Just being raised in America and having a strong passport and having education and all these things, that gives me a level of privilege. And so how do I use that to bring other people up instead of just living my life with privilege, I guess? And so I've always had a heart for other nations. And Africa, I don't know why Africa. It's just been one of those places that stuck. So
Super cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat. It's really neat. And the concept around coffee and how you said it's been pivotal in building relationships and opening doors, and it's everywhere, right? It's global. But I also think it kind of relates a little bit to your why. It all goes back into that place again, that there's room for everybody at the table. Yeah, opening up doors, seeing their value, relying on each other. So would you sell your grounds to Gnometown Grounds and back to all this coffee shop connection you're going to be having?
Yeah, it would have to have a middle ground, though, because I have zero desire to roast coffee.
Okay.
So I don't know who would roast it, but I'd buy it back.
There you go.
Or maybe someone will join the business that wants to roast coffee. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows where it's going to go. I love it. It's pretty cool. We're going to have you back on here. And you can Zoom from Africa if you want to.
Okay.
All right? But we got to get all the deets. Maybe we'll go through a startup boot camp.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
good.
wait.
I wrote a business plan in on it for college, so
See?
It's
Hey,
pretty
you spoke it
serious
into
dream.
existence. Then, yeah, it's a very serious dream. Good for you, Emma. I love it. Where do you see Dawson in 5 years?
I would love to see Dawson growing again.
What do you mean again?
I mean, it might be growing now, but it feels like everybody's either moving out or businesses are moving out, and it's how do we keep a small town alive when big corporations are pulling jobs out, and how do we revitalize our community in that sense? Because a lot of small communities exist because they have corporations that invested. Like, we have a big egg processing plant. Well, we have a few, but we have a really big one in the center of town. And then our hospital's doing really well right now, but will it continue to do well? And how do we continue to bring people in that way so that we can stay on the map.
Well, a coffee shop's a pretty big piece of that. Communities love having a cafe or a coffee shop. You know, like you said, you're bringing people together.
And other small town people love to check out other small towns, so it helps bring people to our small town, which is nice.
Definitely. That's cool. All right. So you had said that your why, do you want to tell me it again?
I believe that everyone has a seat at the table and has something to bring to share with us.
So you're putting this into work with your cafe, with the coffee shop. And what I'm hearing is it kind of guides you. You're going to be putting it into work in your future plans, in your current plans, maybe on the farm, in your growing. But I think that's really beautiful, and it's a really good example of how we try to establish that or find that why, because it really does lead you. And we always say it's the thing that we can see you, like, if that's your why, we can see you doing this now, but if you opened another business, we would imagine it would look like this. And if you opened another business, we would imagine it would look like this. In putting that why to work right now at Gnometown Grounds, you have a place for community to gather. You're showing different vendors and works that people are creating. What about like your team and your staff? How are you involving them in that sort of mission or drive or...
So my staff right now is like a very interesting topic, simply because I have one person who stayed on from the past and then haven't really officially hired anyone else because we've been in like this limbo season. So it's kind of a point of challenge because it's like, no, this is what we're doing. No, this is what we're doing. And don't get me wrong, I love my employee, and I sometimes call her my grandmother, and it's fine. Like, we love each other, but, like, she's like, oh, this is really, really cool. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but, like, oh, it's made here, or can't get it, or, you know, things like that. And so it's a lot of reiterating it right now, and hopefully it will start to stick, and I can see her starting to look for new, like, be like, oh, it's not made here. You probably don't want it. I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, like it's only been a few months.
Right.
Like this is all ways to really get it like in the culture of your place. And that's something to think about. Like for everybody with a small business is how do you bring that why and your mission into the culture, into the brand, into your business so it can be seen and taste and felt and heard, and you know, and that's a challenge, and that's branding, right? Like that is what it's all about. It's not easy.
No. And it sometimes is like, okay, I know people would buy this product no matter where it came from.
Sure.
Well, how much do I care?
Yeah.
And
you're sticking to your guns.
Yep.
I like it. You've got a purpose. You've got a mission. That's good. Stick to it. And also, like, to be clear is to be kind. So to offer that sort of clarity for your customers or for your community, that's a great thing. Then they know what to expect.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. So here you are. You are you're a new business owner. You're back in Dawson. You are making a difference. Creating waves, bringing in new ideas. You're starting your new cafe and restaurant. You're almost through the remodel. June 1st. You are like wide open, taking on the world. In this process, what do you wish you would have known jumping into this entrepreneurial journey? What has maybe surprised you jumping into this journey?
Okay, one thing that's continually surprising is the amount of people who come in and are like, we're so excited, we're so proud of you. And I don't know why it's surprising. Like, it makes sense if you think about it, but it's like, wow, like this actually is making an impact in my small town. I just was like, oh, people are just gonna come in and enjoy it. They're never gonna say anything like that. But it's quite frequently that people are like, oh, we're so excited. Like, we're so proud of you. It's crazy that someone your age would do this. I'm like, it kind of is.
Well, we know, and those are your people then too, right? Those are your supporters, and those are your people. I mean, we know that small businesses are the backbone of our communities. Like, we need thriving and diverse small businesses in our community to keep it alive.
Right.
And those people know that, and you're a great person to do it.
Yeah. Hopefully.
What has been, so that's surprising. That's a really good surprise. What do you wish you would have known or prepared for getting into this journey?
As a small town entrepreneur, knowing that I would be immediately roped into every and all committee that exists, that would have been something nice to think about, or have a heads up of, okay, what can you actually take on? What can other people continue to do for a minute? And like, how do you balance all of that? I've been really lucky because I've been renovating, so it's been kind of quiet this last month, where I've been like, okay, well, I can afford to take this on right now. I don't know what it's going to look like next year, but right now I'm like, let's just get it set in stone so that this is ready to go. Because a lot of our committees are like, we need to do this new thing, but we don't know how. I'm like, well, I don't either, but let's do it. And that's kind of my personality, so
You'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out as we go. If we don't, well, whoops, but we tried.
That's good. So okay, when you say that, would you suggest to other small business owners to like have parameters set up around what they want to be involved in, or like say no to everything until you're at this point, or say yes to everything until you figure out what fits? Like what would be the advice for somebody then that's a brand new entrepreneur in a small town opening up a business?
I guess if it feels like it's a good fit and it's something that you can handle, I'd say yes. I don't think you have to say no to everything.
Yeah.
But some things you're like, that doesn't necessarily need to be me. Can it be someone else for this moment? And I very frequently in meetings will be like, I mean, I'm here. I don't know if I have ideas. I'll try. A lot of my energy, I'm really honest with them, a lot of my energy is going into getting my business fully open and running, and I don't really know what I'm doing yet. So if you guys could still have the ideas and me just kind of learn from you, because that's also a thing of value, is there's a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs in our town, and so being able to learn from them or talk with them about what has worked, what hasn't worked is a valuable place. And so being on those committees opens those doors and gives you kind of an authoritative place, but also a place to come under other people and be like, okay, so what do we do? Because change doesn't work if not everyone's on board, and if you just come in, let's change everything. That doesn't need to happen either.
It's very wise of you. Very wise. When you say that, I forgot to ask you the question of, going into this, do you have any mentors or businesses that you can look to or get ideas from, or that you can run a question by?
I would say I worked in a lot of coffee shops, so everything that I knew from those I kind of take in. I don't have an official mentor. We were talking earlier and I was like, I probably should have one. That might be a good idea. But again, the small town community is, if you reach out to owners of other coffee shops, they're pretty easy to tell them their experience, what worked for them, what might work for you. There's been a lot of people that want to be cooperative and like, how do we get on a maintenance schedule, because we have to pay mileage every time they come out here. So if we could all split that maintenance fee, that would be great. And how do we do this and things like that. But a lot of it's just all of the coffee shops around me, and I do a lot of internet stalking of them as well.
Of course.
So that's like zero risk, a lot of rewards.
Absolutely. We have people on. We had a young entrepreneurs on together on a round table not that long ago. And like, it's so obvious, but not done. Like they reach out to people on Messenger and Instagram, or they follow other people's work and they'll be like, hey, that's really cool. How'd you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And people love sharing. Like, that's like the coolest thing. Like, I think it's hard when you get older or you didn't have that when you were growing up for us to remember that, like, whatever your heart desires, it's right there. You can find it. You can communicate about it. You can ask questions about it. Like, it's okay to message someone. Like, it's okay. Like, that's so neat that you can have. And it also can be overwhelming, but that there's, like, all this access to such a variety of ideas and inspiration. It's pretty cool. What do you, as a young entrepreneur, you're diving into this. For other young entrepreneurs that might be listening, or they're just starting their business, what sort of advice do you have for them? They're like, come on, Emma, give me a nugget. I need something. Or encouragement.
Yeah. I think my take on things is just do it. Like, if it doesn't go away and it's persistent, an idea or whatever, just do it, try it. And the best part about being young is most people are like, oh, they're just young. Like, it's okay. Like, if you make a mistake, they'll just laugh with you. They expect us to figure it out as we go, which I think is great and takes all the pressure off of trying things.
I love that. Like, you have like a escape. Like, you're like, yeah, we're going to do this, but if I don't, I'm going to fall back on that. Well, I'm not young. I'm just learning.
I don't know anything.
What you guys expect.
Yeah.
But if it works, you'd be like, right?
Yeah. It was a good idea, see?
I like that advice. You just got to jump in. But I also really like that you said, like, if you have this idea and it just keeps coming back and it keeps growing and you keep nurturing it, you got to do something with that idea, right? You can't just sit on that. Yeah.
And that's how Gnometown Grounds it came to be. I just couldn't sit on it anymore. And it was like, well, if I want to do it, now's the chance. My other little advice for young people is you can probably financially recover if it goes wrong. We still got a lot of our life left. So take the pressure off. Just do it.
Just do it. When your community or your customers walk into Gnometown Grounds, the future Gnometown Grounds, let's say a year from now, and the remodeling is done, the menu is established for the whatever season it is. It is decorated. It is ready. Like, it's just how you want it to be. What do you hope your customers feel when they walk in? Or what are the sensations that they're going to get when they come through your door?
I hope that it's a very peaceful environment, and there are a lot of things going on, but I hope that it is presented in a way that, like, makes sense and makes it a relaxing space. Because I don't know, I've been in coffee shops that aren't relaxing and you're just like, wait a second, what's going on? What do I do? How do I order? And, like, you just know when the vibes are there, like, oh, this is just a chill coffee shop. Everyone's enjoying, relaxing, or getting work done, or whatever they're doing, and everything just kind of makes sense.
I love that. What are the aesthetic? Like, is it black and white? Are there plants everywhere? Like, what am I seeing?
There are a lot of plants. It's mostly white with a little bit of, like, black, blue, green accents. Very calming. Yeah.
And the smell of coffee in the
Smell
air.
of coffee. There's a chair, like a couch and chairs, because that's the best way to drink your coffee. But there's tables, and we are attempting to put tables near outlets. Sorry, our building is old. Outlets are limited.
You're figuring it out. You're going to get there.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. What do you love most about owning your own small business? Like, I loved when you explained or described the pride you feel when you unlock the door. Like, what do you love about it? What's giving you that sense of pride? Or maybe that's two separate questions. What do you love about it?
Yeah.
And what's giving you that sense of pride?
I love being in control of what's going on and to a point, I guess.
Yeah.
You can't be in control of everything, but it's like, no, I get to set the atmosphere and do those kinds of things and set what we're going to believe in, and just bring everything along with that journey. And I think that also is what gives me pride about it, is because it's like, wait, you made these decisions and you had this dream and you stepped out in it. So, like, now you can take it in I mean, you still have to work at it, but you can take it in and be proud of what you've done so far.
Absolutely. Well, Emma, is there anything else that you want to add or contribute or have questions or feel like you didn't get to share?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, Emma, I want to thank you for being on. I think you're in a really unique position, and good for you, man. You should be proud of yourself. What you're doing is not easy. A lot of people, most people, don't step out and do something like what you're doing, especially at your age, especially in a small town, and it's super cool. Like, you should be proud of yourself. You're creating something, you're lifting up a community, and it's not always going to be easy. And you know that. It's work, right? But I'm so excited to see where this journey is going to lead you. It's going to be great places. And when you came into the boot camp, I love it when businesses start. They do boot camp like right out of the beginning of the gate. Like, you're 2 weeks open, ready to go. And it's the coolest thing that we get to watch this journey and to see how Emma is growing your business, to kind of stay tuned on social media, on your Instagram, on your Facebook, but also like to see where Emma goes in this journey. Because as involved as you are in your community right now, it's really cool to see what our entrepreneurs do in their communities, the change that they create, the involvement. I mean, small businesses are the backbone of our communities, and it's really neat to see where your journey is going to go. It's really cool. We have a super awesome opportunity being here, kind of like watching this crazy adventure that you're about to go on. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, so we wish you all the best. I hope that your remodel is smooth sailing from here out, and that the whole menu selection, that everything's good. Now, where can we follow your journey? Where can people learn more about Gnometown Grounds and what you've got going on and what's coming up?
Yeah, we're on both Facebook and Instagram, and it's just Gnometown Grounds on both of those. So,
and you list new retail and merchandise, you list coffee drinks, you'll be listing menu items, but that's kind of where we keep updated.
Yes.
And where is Dawson located if we are driving through and we want a cup of coffee?
Dawson is located on Highway 212. It's like 17 miles west of Montevideo. It's about 10 miles from the South Dakota border. So just drive on 212 till you don't think you can be in Minnesota anymore.
And then grab yourself a cup of coffee.
Yes.
And you'll be right there.
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.